the fact that I would gamble on certain things like Dumb and Dumber at a time when there was an intervention. My agents gathered on the phone in a conference call and said, we're going to stop this from happening. You know, you're going to ruin your career. And I did it anyway.
Welcome to Salon Talks. I am Mary Elizabeth Williams, and what a privilege. I'm sitting next to Jeff Daniels this morning. Hi, how are you?
Very good.
You are the Emmy-winning, Golden Globe nominated, Tony nominated as well, actor. We know you from Dumb and Dumber. That's going to live with you forever.
It'll be on the tombstone.
It's going to be on the tombstone, probably in the very first paragraph of the obituary.
Yeah.
Terms of Endearment, Pleasantville, The Martian, Squid and the Whale. Love that movie so much. The Newsroom, iconic. And now you are also, well, you've been a musician your whole life, but now you are also the creator of what you call the memoir, music, and performance Audible Original, Alive and Well Enough. It's in its second season. Jeff, this project is so special. It's so lovely, and it's so unlike anything else.
Thank you. It was designed to be unlike anything else. My agent had called me a couple years ago and said, you know, you're the only actor who doesn't have a podcast. And I said, is that a problem? He goes, I think you could do it. And so I thought, okay, here's the deal. Don't make me invite guests. Don't make me call up my celebrity friends. I'll do everything. My son Ben and I I'll write it. We'll produce it, we'll put music in there, because I've been writing songs for 40 years. It's like a personal diary, musical diary, basically. And so I build these stories around the music or things that happen to me, and I try to make it as entertaining as possible. I try to write with a sense of humor, which I think is essential, especially now. And I learned a long time ago from playwrights in the 70s that you have to find your voice as a writer, and the sense of humor leads me to mine. And I try to talk about stuff that happened to me, you know, over the career in a way that people who aren't in the industry can understand it. They get behind the scenes of what it's like to work with Meryl Streep, and what did I learn? Mike Nichols, you know, Jack Nicholson, you know, what'd you learn from those people? And that's what I focus on, and I try to make those stories as well written and as entertaining as possible.
And as you said, humorous. It's funny, it's self-deprecating.
Yeah.
It feels like this. It feels like listening to it is like this. I feel like I'm just sitting down, having a conversation with you, and you're telling me these incredible, lively, funny stories. And then you're going to sing me a song.
Yeah, and then and which leads me to a song, and the next thing you know, you're going, what? But I did a lot of audio books, and soon into doing that, you learn that you're reading it for one person. And so as I'm writing this, and as I'm, you know, recording it, I'm telling this story to one person. That's the little trick. It's different than movies. It's different than being on a stage on Broadway with 1,400 people. You're one person. So when you start to tell the story to one person, whether they're on their treadmill or walking or whatever they're doing, it's like you're talking to them. And that's the little secret.
Well, you're telling it to me.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and it's written. And then the actor in me can make that sound like I'm saying it for the first time, even though it's written. And there's a little bit of improv in there, but not too much. It's, you know, just like an actor, your job is to take the script and make it sound like it's just falling out of your head, and that's kind of what I do.
And it was always conceived as 2 seasons. Why 2 seasons? What is different about this chapter of it that distinguishes it from the first time?
Well, initially this was a podcast, whatever that means, which means it's not 1 season or 2, it's as many as you can do. And so when Audible Originals kindly said, oh, we'll take whatever you've got, and I've got, well, I've written 2 seasons. And there's going to be more. I mean, I've written 3. I have 4 about half written. And, I see 10. It's just a matter of, and sometimes it's just opinions on this or some fictional story that I'll take a song that I've written and then turn it into a short story that leads into the song. I'll do sketch stuff like Snack Time with Harry Dunn, where Harry Dunn gets to interview the actor who played him in Dumb and Dumber. So I get to play both parts. So you write it and then you record it like it's for the older folks, the Bob and Ray radio show where it's back and forth between these two guys. Just the two guys happen to be me. I'll take scenes from plays I've written for the Purple Rose Theater Company in Michigan. I've written 22 plays, and I'll just do a scene from that. And I'll tie all this stuff in such an entertaining way that hopefully people will connect with it. And that, I at the end of 2 seasons, even the end of 3 seasons now with the outline, there's so much more. And so I love writing. I love that end of what I do. And this memoir on Audible Originals is like the perfect place to do everything I can do. Whereas an actor, you're in front of the camera, you're on a stage. Playwright, you're turning the play in. Musician, I get to do all of it.
Because you've said, people ask me, why haven't you written a memoir? And your answer is, it's this, because you get to do everything.
This is the only, I heard that when you do write a memoir in book form, you have to go on a book tour, which involves a lot of cities and sitting in bookstores and signing books, and I didn't want to do that. So I said, I'll do this, because again, it's the music falls into it, the playwriting, the fiction, then also here's the story written. This is the perfect place for me to put it down. It's also great, with my son Ben, engineering all this stuff, the sound engineer, and helping me with the musical arrangements and all that stuff. It's a 2-person thing, but and that's as much a joy of doing it anything as doing it with him.
I wanted to ask you about that because you've collaborated with Ben before, you've toured together.
Yeah.
What was it about doing this that made you want to collaborate on this particular kind of project and work together on this?
Well, he knows music in a way that I don't. I can write folk songs that, are topical funny songs for an acoustic guitar, but when we go beyond that, he's really good about hearing other things. So we've got several songs in the memoir that it's not just me and an acoustic guitar at a desk. And he's a sound engineer. I don't want to deal with that. I write it. If he hears something that doesn't sound right, he goes, what's this? I'm going, yeah, let me fix that. So, but once I give it to him, then he deals with Audible Originals and their audio people who are meticulously, exact and detailed about what they want it to sound like, which is great. But he spends a lot of time with them, making sure that what you hear, is up to their standards. And so that's something that I don't want to do, and he does.
And working on something like this, you said you don't want to be navel-gazy. It's not me and my process. You want this to be relatable, but you are looking at your life. You are taking stock of this career that you've had for 50 years. I'm wondering, in the process of writing, in doing this kind of thing, it changes how you see things. It has to. I'm wondering, going back and revisiting these experiences you have with these actors on these sets, all these classic films, have you gone back and said, oh, actually, this is a different story than I've been telling myself all these years?
I did better than I thought. That's the thing. When I start to think about the people I worked with, name people, big time people, I held up. I didn't drop the ball. I wasn't fired after the first movie with Mike Nichols or anything. No, I lasted, but I was always on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And only kind of after To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway did I kind of step back and go, okay, you've kind of done it. What'd you do? Now let's go back in and find out how you held up, or how you were able to do that. And I discovered that I've always been a gambler. Moving to Michigan after 4 movies, to what? Operate a movie career out of Michigan? Are you kidding me? Who does that in 1986? I did, and it worked. The fact that I would gamble on certain things like Dumb and Dumber at a time when there was an intervention. My agents gathered on the phone in a conference call and said, we're going to stop this from happening. You know, you're going to ruin your career. And I did it anyway. I also learned that I challenge myself, which is a lot more work than not challenging yourself. You can do a movie and have it be a $1 billion movie, and that's who you are. Clark Gable was Clark Gable was Clark Gable. That's a brand, and you go to see Clark Gable. It's the same thing with any big star now, today. But I didn't want to do that. I kept changing it. I didn't want to brand myself as one thing. So the challenge of risking failure, I'm still doing it. And it's like, that's what I've been doing for 50 years, is challenging me, going, I bet you can't do this role.
I've watched a couple of interviews with you, and I love when you talk about meeting a fellow actor who is at a similar place in your life or a similar age. You have more than once said, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still here. That is a big deal, to still be here. And you talk about what that means, because to still be here, you said you're still getting rejected at this age. You're still getting turned down for things. What does it take to still be here?
Yeah, it is. I just did a movie in Iceland with J.K. Simmons. And we're both from Michigan. We've circled each other for years. We finally got to work with each other. And that was the feeling. We pulled this off. We lasted. We outlasted everybody who didn't. Because it really is an industry. It's a youth-oriented industry. They don't care if you're here next week or not. They really don't. They've got other people. There are plenty of other people who could do this role. But if you get to a certain point where you've established yourself as maybe somebody that could do something that's definitive, that after you're done doing it, I can't imagine anybody else in that role. That's always the goal. And when you get with actors like that who've done that, and we don't do it every time, but on the occasion when we do it, there's this kind of exclusive, unspoken club of that kind of risk taker, that kind of preparation, and I think of people like Merrill and De Niro and Pacino and those guys that Hoffman, that dove in and gave it everything, like an athlete, like an NFL athlete. They attack a role like an athlete does, to train, to prepare, to get ready for the shooting of it, the going on stage. And to be able to do that over decades. I remember my agent, we were talking about casting a role in a movie. This was 20 years ago. And I said, well, what about so-and-so? He goes, no, he's over. I go, excuse me, what? He's over? Yeah. I said, has anyone told him? Because we're the last to know. I mean, on Tuesday, you're done. You're over. They're looking for, it's that whole thing, the younger Jeff. Give me a young Jeff Daniels. Give me all that whole thing. So it's to have lasted and to come across a fellow actor who you just have this look in your eye going, and you don't even have to say it. We're still here.
You're still here. And you're not just, this little movie that you're making in Iceland, you are playing Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Talk about the definitive. So many other actors have taken this. So many recently have done this. What does it mean to take on someone who is so embedded in our cultural memory? Those of us who are old enough to remember him and who have lived through his years, but even kids, younger people in their 30s, Jeff, who don't remember him, he is an icon. What does it take to do that?
It's threading a needle. You know, I can do a show like A Man in Full where I have to come up with a big Southern accent and be this fictional guy out of Atlanta. That accent can be anywhere. But Reagan has to be right here. And that was 7 months of trying to get that. And it really, the whole movie is over the weekend that Reagan and Gorbachev spent in Reykjavik, Iceland, trying to lower nuclear weapons. They met in a kind of a semi-private summit to see if they could do that. It's a famous meeting. We got there, we shot in Reykjavik, in the house where they met, in the room where they sat, in the chairs where they sat. And there was this wonderful kind of aura around it that kind of helped you come up to it. But Jared Harris was Gorbachev, J.K. Simmons was George Shultz, Hope Davis was Nancy Reagan, and I challenged myself again, you know. Hopefully I pulled it off. I'm told I did. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm confident in this one. You also, when you talk about, oh, he's over, or taking those kinds of chances in your life, as you said, moving to Michigan almost 40 years ago is taking a chance. Working in regional theater, writing plays is taking a chance. I'm wondering, for people who think, if I want to have a creative life and I want to be an artist, there are 2 places I can do it in America. You are challenging that idea. What is having that distance and that perspective meant to you as an artist, and what do you think it can mean to an artist?
First of all art and artists are local. You start there. You do not have to succeed on the coasts. As someone who lives in Michigan, who grew up in the Midwest, we got a lot of very smart people there who can write. So write about where you are. That's what I tell that's what we do at the Purple Rose Theater Company in Chelsea, Michigan. We do a lot of new work with Michigan Midwestern playwrights, and I tell them, I'm not interested in your inner truth. I'm interested in you writing about the audience that's sitting in these seats, or that lives around here. Write for this corner of the country. Paint for this corner of the country. Paint sculpt. I mean, you don't have to, be a big star, or become a national, celebrity, or go to Nashville to be validated as a musician. You can do it right where you are. And the act of creating, it's like this you get to, I've said, it's art is what gives us wings. And that's what you can do. Even if it's just the paintings that you're doing, that you're displaying at your local church, once in a while, or that gig you're playing in the bar where you drop in those 2 songs that you wrote, in between all the covers. You're doing it, and that's okay. I'm all for that. And I've always, and the one thing I've learned too, as I've been writing the memoir, is that the place where it all comes from, whether it's to play a role or to write something or to the music hasn't changed. That person who creates hasn't gotten any older. They still have the energy. I may not have the ambition to, decades of trying to get that next movie, that next role, that's gone. I'll do stuff that I want to do that's challenging, but that energy to create something, I can't shut off.
That's good for all of us.
Yeah.
It's good for all of us to listen to that, but also to keep experiencing it. Jeff, I want to ask you one more thing, because you live in an interesting state. You are a political guy. It's been an interesting year. First of all, how are you doing? How is everyone doing now after the election? How are you feeling about living in Michigan in this moment?
Some around us, me, are doing better than others. Look, I was one of the guys that said this is the opportunity for a new America, an open society, inclusive, where we take the best of all of us, where it truly becomes equal and fair and respectful to all. representative of everyone. And it deals with the 400-year-old original sin of slavery. We were finally going to deal with that. And it looked to me like it was going to happen. And then it didn't. November 5th I told a couple people, I said, we're going to find out who we are. What I'm concerned with now is more like, I hope this is who we are now. And in 2 years, we'll see. Will it still be who we are, or will it be worse? Are we living through a time in American history where 50 years from now, they'll look back as the end of democracy happened now? I hope not. But I don't trust people with absolute power. And I think they have it. And we'll see. I mean, if it truly is about the voters, if there will be people who find out that the price of eggs is going to go up and that tariffs are going to hurt them, and when it starts to affect them personally, financially, maybe that'll change the minds of some people who thought it was okay to try them again. But I think we've lost character and integrity and decency and respect for the rule of law. I think that's flown out the window. And I don't think social media is going to help us fix that. I think we live in the era of outrage. And I don't know, I'm hopeful, but what am I supposed to do? If Beyonce can't, save it for her.
If Beyonce can't fix this, who can?
Yeah, let's see. This may be absolute chaos and the incompetency not only of Trump himself, but of all the people he seems to be parading. Is there a relationship with Putin that we haven't had before? I mean, having just done the Reagan-Gorbachev thing, it's night and day. The U.S., Russia, even as tough as it was in '86, I don't know where we're going, and I fear that Trump doesn't either, and that he's going to get played. But I'm just an actor. What do I know?
Jeff, I was going to ask you, what do you think your character from the newsroom would have to say about all this? But frankly, you just gave it to me.
Well, that's probably a softer version of what McAvoy would probably be, on one of his rants.
That was a gentle rant.
Yeah.
Jeff, the project is called, I want to make it right, Alive and Well Enough.
Alive and Well Enough.
Which is perfect. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. It's lovely. And if you just want to spend time sitting next to this guy and listening to him in your ear tell you great stories, this is the way to do it. Or you can have my job, one or the other.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching Salon Talks. If you had a good time, why not subscribe right over here so you can get more conversations with your favorite artists, actors, directors, writers, comedians, musicians, politicians, everybody you love, and I love too. And while you're here, why not watch another video right now?